Ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple of things to go over before she's gone, and I'm going to open with this. If you decided to not pull for Serenial for some reason, and you have the ability to, I will lead with this. That is a heck of a choice. That's a heck of a choice out there. Serenial is probably the most busted character in Chaos Zero Nightmare right now, and there's more to it than just she's good right now, and more so that in combination with how she's going to be working with content that's coming out in the future, and also one of the main modes of the Chaos Manifestation system. The easiest thing for you to do is support the channel by checking out the link in the description below. You're gonna get a free legendary champion as well as up to $200 worth of free goodies. And don't forget up to 3 awesome epics as you level up inside of Raid. And be sure to use the code Desert Queen to get access to your new free legendary champion in the form of Tahana Rock. As always, this helps the channel out so much, guys, so be sure to check that description down in the link below and join me in Raid today. Now, I'm not someone who likes to ride the high horse of like, oh, making Chaos Manifestation easier. What are the best characters inside of Chaos Manifestation modes? Because at the end of the day, if a character's absolutely garbage inside of Chaos Manifestation mode, but they're broken when you're utilizing saved data, at the end of the day, you're running them through Chaos Manifestation anyway. But Serenial and the way that her kit works and the epiphanies that she has that you can acquire inside of Chaos Manifestation make her one of the most consistent characters to just hard carry basically any sort of team composition that you want inside of Chaos, which allows you to just have this very easy to use team character in the form of Serenial to just build really good save data decks for any kind of Chaos Manifestation, because as you guys know of by now, her main gimmick inside of her build and her own kits is this afterglow mechanic that allows her tenacity break, get cards into the graveyard, return them back with her homing lasers, return them back with the different epiphanies from the shining cores, whether you're generating homing laser L's or generating different homing lasers with this version of the shining core upgrade. She works very well with the most broken things, both inside and as well as outside of Chaos Manifestation. She works with characters who like to spam zeros because she makes zeros. She loves to work with some of the best characters in the game like Cassius. She can turn characters like Nia into absolute monsters. She has taken Selena basically from like an okay character to possibly one of the most busted characters in conjunction with Serenial in a lot of different game modes, not just in the rift that we have right now. And so I'll lead with this. If you have the ability to pull even just a C0, like a Manifestation Ego 0 Serenial, you will have someone on your account that you will use for a very long time. And because let's just be real, ladies and gentlemen, if you paid attention to some of the live stream stuff, and I'm sure we'll get some more information on it soon because we're moving into season 2 and eventually into season 3, they're going to be expanding on the different game modes, and some of them are going to be Chaos Manifestation related, right? They talked about in the live stream how there's going to be a game mode that is going to be inside of Chaos that will reward you not with new save data for your characters, but with items to change save data that you have already. So having someone like Serenial to really help you in a roguelike game mode that's going to be brand new content is going to be wild for you. So I cannot give this character a bigger oomph in how busted that she is. In addition to that, though, not only can you build her in a lot of different ways inside of Chaos Manifestation, she doesn't have very many bad epiphanies, so you're always consistently doing something good, increasing your success rate there. On top of that, she's got a lot of cool different save data builds that you can utilize outside of Chaos Manifestation for fun. Like this is one that I just messed with around the other day, and this is the homing laser spam build. You can either duplicate a homing laser with Afterglow 3 on it, right? And then use the shining core to make sure that you can generate the homing laser that hits multiple times. The downside of this homing laser is that it doesn't give afterglow, but building a deck that has the ability to have both the double hitting homing laser that returns on Ravage here and hits multiple times, with the downside of not giving afterglow, in conjunction with your ability to pick up an Afterglow 3. You can do this vice versa, whether this one's the Afterglow 3 one and you're duplicating this, and then you're getting access to the double hit one through the Shining Core. You can swap that around, whatever it is that you will. You can have a ton of Afterglow, making sure that you're always landing the big tenacity break damage, always making sure that you have this Afterglow effect on every single thing that you do, double hitting, doing damage, and then these all return back to your hand as well. You can also, I haven't seen anyone shout this out yet, a small little card in the form of Ambush. Even though it reads differently, it says if Ravage, move this from your graveyard to your hand. A lot of you guys might think that this means that if Ambush is the card that ravages, it brings it back. I don't know why it's worded differently. I've been playing with this time and time and time again. I think you can even check out some of these sleep videos that I've had with just long-standing Chaos Manifestation runs. This works exactly the same way as a homing laser does. This says on Ravage, this says if Ravage. They work the same way. This can just be sitting in your graveyard pile, whether it's in the used pile or just in the normal discard graveyard pile, and it comes back as well, meaning that you can put this not just on Serenial, but you can put this on anyone in your team that's a DPS character with Serenial in the party. And then they also have like a weaker form of homing laser as well. The downside of Ambush is that it doesn't really have a lot of Afterglow effects on it because it's a common card. But if you're filling your deck up with the ability to generate a ton of Afterglow with this form of homing laser, everything you're casting, whether it's Plasma Missile, Cobalt Light, Pale Shooting Star, Homing Laser L, they're all gonna have Afterglow, and it's a wild, fantastic time. But that is just one of the decks that you can utilize and have fun with her there. There's the Homing Laser draw a card, make some Homing Laser L's build. There's gonna be you can see this, the Ambush build here. Obviously, there's the awesome Shining Core X build. This one is going to be not as fun, or as good, but it is a little bit fun to play with here, where you can utilize the X Shining Cores. As you see, we have 3 of these that draw a card here. You want to utilize this with the accessory, not the Eye of Eyeless, but you want the X+1 accessory here as well, because this would turn this into a 0 cost, make 2 Homing Laser L's, draw a card, and you can pair that in conjunction with some other team members that have access to Forbidden Eternal Hunger in an Adagio Nia team, where you can basically balance how much AP you have at any given time. You want to work your way down to 0 AP, right? Get down to 0 AP, cast these X's for 0 to make 2 Shining Lasers, draw a card, and then use like an Adagio to draw some of the Forbidden Eternal Hungers back into your hand, which will then give you more AP, play some more cards, go back down to 0 AP, cast some Shining Cores as well. On top of that, afterwards, draw the Forbidden Hungers again, make more Homing Laser L's. That's a very fun build. And then obviously one of the easiest ones to pair with this is the Shining Core upgrade that generates 2 Homing Laser L's. And then on Ravage, it makes more Homing Laser L's. If you get lucky, you can actually duplicate a Shining Core, the base version inside of your run. This one here, duplicate it before it epiphanies, and you can make an epiphany of this Shining Core, and you can also make some epiphanies of this Shining Core as well to start generating additional actual homing lasers, right? And then still have this upgrade in your deck on top of that. I think that's the build at the end of the day I'm going to aim for in season 2, is I'm going to try my hardest to get a double Shining Core epiphany, one of these bad boys and one of these bad boys, and it's going to be a wild time. And then after you do that, you just start duplicating some of these homing lasers, maybe work some big Afterglows or the double hit ones in there, whatever it is. Either of these 2 epiphanies are going to be wild there. So that is just crazy. That is crazy. She's a crazy character. The amount of fun you can have with this character is wild. Now, hopefully you didn't skip too far though, because there is an important question of where should you stop before she leaves. Now let's talk about Manifest Ego stuff, right? And we also want to get into her partner too. So Manifest Ego at E0, she's a fantastic character. However, the big one here is going to be the E1 plus the E2. Okay, so E1 gives you damage bonus to Pale Shooting Star, and it activates 5 homing lasers, which is actually kind of a big deal. At E1, this becomes probably, it's already a really good ability, a really good card, but it becomes one of the best ones in the game because it activates them from the draw pile as well as the graveyard. So you are able to actually use this to draw out the normal homing lasers that we talked about in some of the awesome builds before, whether it's the ones that are naturally in the deck, or if it's being made from the upgrade ability that generates your choice of a new homing laser in your, second, third turn cycling through your deck. This can draw them all out of the deck for you, put them all in the graveyard. A lot of the times, Ravage at the same turn as well, especially if you have some of the triple Afterglow homing lasers inside of your deck or in your graveyard as you cast Pale Shooting Star, which will break everything, sit them in the graveyard, and then you can reset it with Selena, bring them back to your hand, do all that good stuff. However, the big one here is E2. Now, there's been a lot of hype. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And I will say this. Now, E2 Manifest Ego for Selena, Serenial, is potentially the most quality of life in conjunction with like game-breaking Manifest Egos in the game. And I'll preface it like this. Now, a lot of players are like, oh, dude, if homing lasers, one of the cards that you draw at the start of the turn, draw another card. That is fantastic on its own right. However, at the start of the battle, creating 2 homing laser L's is wild. Now, when you're using your save data, you're doing stuff like farming. It helps out a little bit there. If you're doing like big end game content where you're using save data, it helps out there. It gives you a little bit of tempo. But when you're using this character in Chaos Manifestation and you have the Manifest Ego too, the game becomes an absolute joke. The game becomes an absolute breeze, no matter what Chaos Manifestation that you're doing, because starting with 2 of these homing laser L's allows you to basically start with the most busted parts of her kit ready and rocking to go. You're going to be generating Afterglow instantaneously, so you're going to be able to tenacity break things extremely quickly, which is going to return the homing laser L's that you get from the Manifestation Ego second copy back to your hand. If you generate them from Pulsefire basic cards at the start of a Chaos Manifestation run as well, these are going to come back to your hand. If you have any ways to have extra homing lasers as you're going through your Chaos Manifestation runs, it is going to return those back to your hand as well. The E2 gives you like this giant tempo inside of Chaos Manifestation where you just breeze through runs extremely quickly. So that's why I say it's a big quality of life, because your runs actually become way shorter. You actually take less time in real life thinking about the decisions that you're making inside of your runs. It's going to allow you to defeat enemies way more quickly inside of your runs, whether it's normal monsters or elites or even bosses. Like I said, there's like hours and hours and hours of footage of me so far using Serenial. It's on the, the sleep time. I'm not commentating, but check out the playlist. It's there. It's the CZN sleep playlist on my channel that you can check it out. And it's just busted. A lot of you guys been asking, like, how do you farm save data where you get good save data? It takes so long. I'm saving so much time actually clearing the run, right? We were so used to like runs taking like 50 minutes, 40 minutes. I think there's a video that I put up that's like 55 minutes, no cuts, no edits, and it's 2 runs instead of just 1, right? So it has cut my save data, clear time to generate data, go through an entire Chaos Manifestation run nearly in half. But what I will say is this, there's a combination of decisions to be making. I think eventually you will want to get this partly for season 2/season 3. If you have a lot of extra currency and you're like close to pity or whatever, and you want it right now and you still have your Omega code and you have a C0 Serenial, you could think about pulling for an extra copy of Serenial right now using your Omega code and just getting the second Manifest Ego right now and just enjoy that quality of life, enjoy the gameplay, because it is just that big of a deal. Afterwards though, for Manifest Egos, 3, 4, and 5 are kind of whatever. 3 and 5 are pretty bad, to be honest with you. 4 just gives you some damage bonus. It's not nearly the same as far as quality of life or game changing manifest ego-ness of 1 and 2. And then 6 is huge, especially for bosses, right? If something has 10 tenacity gauges, then this is going to be an 800% multiplier. So that's for like bosses and ranking. If you're up there trying to get rank 1, you'll probably eventually want to have this on her. But in general, for like chaos manifestation runs, most enemies have like, 3 bars. So it's actually really, really strong, but in a lot of circumstances, exceptionally overkill. Now keep that in mind there. Why am I at 3 if I just called it bad? Well, it's because I used my Omega code and then got a random double pull. So now I ended up at 3. Don't be like me. That was a mistake there. But definitely go for number 2. And should you go for number 2, if you have to pull right now, over her own partner? I'll say this. Now, I'm still using Yuri. Yuri's an absolutely cracked partner. I think that, and I am worried a little bit with the balancing design that we're seeing, that they keep talking about, the rebalancing, problematic things like Tressa, and the rebalancing problematic characters like Cassius. And they said they were going to look at some of the partners and stuff. Are they going to nerf Yuri? I don't know. But what I will say right now is that for chaos manifestation, even if I had her 5-star partner, I would still probably use Yuri inside of chaos manifestation modes, because 3 EP to draw 2, it just makes your runs quicker. It just allows you to get in there, go draw some cards we need to, do some damage. Her own partner is very strong, and at the end of the day, probably like a tiny bit better than Yuri is, but a lot of the times when I'm in there, I don't really care. I'm not really missing it. I really don't care, because this right here, when an ally inflicts Ravage, 1 overclock, it's just basically 3 EP to gain 25% crit chance. It's fine, right? It's a walking 25% crit chance buff. Inside of Chaos Manifestation, drawing 2 cards a lot of the times is better. And honestly, outside of Chaos Manifestation, being able to draw 2 cards for 3 EP for consistency reasons, I think I actually would prefer that over a 25% crit rate buff a lot of the times too. That's going to depend on you on consistency versus like min-maxing the amount of damage you can do in a single turn on the leaderboards. If you have all day to just make sure your runs are kind of auto consistent and you're trying for top rank, probably Pekko is going to beat it out with the 3 EP 25 crit chance buff. I would do this. I would get Serenial if possible, right? With your saved currency before she goes away. If you want this now and you have extra saved currency, maybe you got lucky, get 1 copy and use the Omega code we have, okay? And get the second awakened memory, right? Alternatively, just get C0 Serenial. And if you haven't used the Omega code you have right now, keep it. And then we should get another one for season 2, and you should be able to use it and get E2 Serenial with 2 Omega codes without having to pull. After you get E2, if you want to, you can think about going and getting Pekko, her partner, or you can just do what I'm doing and just sit on Yuri. And just honestly, Yuri with Ego Manifestation 2 Serenial is kind of where you want to be. And if you can do that, you have a monster of a character on your account for a long time, for an absolute long time. And the other things are future content. Are they going to make her worse? Are they going to make her better? I'll say this in closing. If they make Serenial a character bad in all future content, right? Character bad. What they would have to do is make it so like enemies, that can't be tenacity broken. They'd have to basically rework the entire game around her being terrible by giving enemies no tenacity gauge, making it so enemies, do the inverse where they take more damage before their tenacity broken, and all of this other stuff. I don't really see that happening, and maybe and likely it's easier to see a future where we have other characters who enjoy that core gameplay mechanic. Because remember, tenacity gauge is a core gameplay mechanic inside of CZN. And for them to make Serenial bad on purpose in future content, it would mean they would have to basically redesign the entire game to no longer interact with the tenacity gauge mechanic. or have every boss that comes out in the future interact with the tenacity gauge mechanic in reverse, to the point where every other character in the game other than Serenial becomes busted because the bosses like take more damage before they're broken and all this other nonsense. So I don't think that would happen, but it is much more likely to see future characters that work well with the tenacity gauge mechanic, whether they are able to benefit off of it getting broken or reset it like we can with Selena. So I think it's a big chance that she is much more likely to get even better in the future as she directly interacts with one of the main mechanics in CZN in a extremely powerful way in the form of the tenacity gauge meter. In the way that she also interacts with it is in the one of the most busted ways you can interact with it in the game, by filling your hand with a bunch of zero costs, getting a lot of value from these zero costs, using them multiple times in the same turn. And that is shown to be a busted thing because they've already said that they're looking and they're keeping their eyes on characters like Tressa, because after the first leaderboard event where Tressa was everywhere on the second boss, they said, oh, we don't know what to do right now. We're having to redesign the second boss specifically so you can't use Tressa against it because she's just that strong. And this character kind of does that all on her own. You don't need to heal to make zeros. She just makes zeros, makes more zeros, tenacity breaks, puts all those zeros back in her hand and does it again. So this character, I think, has a very long-term gain potential for you to have on your account. And she's only going to be here for like another couple of days. She'll probably eventually return, but she's not getting added to the permanent pool after her banner goes away. And she is going to be someone that you absolutely will enjoy on your account. So take that away for what you will out there. I know this is kind of like a scatterbrain thing. If you've seen the posts lately, I've had a lot going on. I just got back in, and hopefully I can get this out to you before the banner goes away. And in case then it doesn't come out, I'm sorry. No, it's going to come out on time. Make sure you check out the link down below in the description to help out your boy. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.